Oh, shucky ducky, it's time for another Battle Avionic. This time we're going to be talking about SEEKER Volley. And this is mostly because I did a poll and a handful more people looked at the question of whether or not I should do this video, despite the fact that a DE will probably be giving it a nice little buff soon, hopefully, and responded with a good old-fashioned, do it. So, here we are. Let's get into it. SEEKER Volley is a battle avionic for your third slot. It fires 50 homing missiles. That's it. Pretty straightforward. No muss, no fuss. As I have said previously, SEEKER Volley is in fact affected by the warhead avionic. So, if you want to increase the power of your SEEKER Volley, you use that warhead. Whether you use the Vidar warhead, which I think is probably the most you'll get for value, or you use the Z-Key warhead, where for an additional 4 drain, you get 10% more over that 60.5%. If you can fit it, I guess fit it. Otherwise, the Vidar warhead is probably the best one you want to get. So here we are chilling in free space, and when you use SEEKER Volley without any enemies about, this is the kind of effect that you have. The SEEKER Volleys actually shoot out in a sort of circular formation, as you can see there, a bit of a spiral formation, and that's how that works. When you have enemies nearby, the SEEKER Volley will then go and target various enemies, as long as they are, I guess, not even necessarily close to the SEEKER Volley. In fact, they can actually be pretty far away from your field of view. Now, in terms of damage from the SEEKER Volley, a level 9 cutter from Earth before today's armor changes, where all of our enemy fighters actually lost about half their armor. So before that change, a level 9 cutter on Earth had about 300 armor, just a little bit under 300 armor, which meant that their damage reduction from any incoming fire was almost 50%. From that, I was able to infer that because a SEEKER Volley missile only did 442 damage against that level 9 cutter, that the SEEKER Volley at whole, without warhead actually, does 884 damage per missile. Because it only does 884 damage per missile, this is why it very quickly drops off in effectiveness around mid-Saturn. So, Cassio's Rest, which is the last node on Saturn, you'll find that SEEKER Volley is not particularly effective. It's still better than, I guess, the Veil, but it's still not as effective. For those who are interested in the math, a max SEEKER Volley on a max grid giving us 50 missiles, each doing around 884 damage apiece, will give us a grand total of 44,200 damage. By comparison, one single Tycho Seeker is around 39,000 damage, and that's without warhead. It doesn't have to one-shot everything, but I feel like when a SEEKER missile hits an enemy, a little bit more than maybe 10% of their health should disappear. Now, in terms of the way the missiles actually target enemy fighters, it seems like if you do find that some missiles are just going in a straight line and not targeting anything, that is a pretty good indicator that the rest of the missiles are going to effectively end their targets. But this might not be true if that target has something like a flare or has some way of dodging those missiles. But at that point, the missiles that went straight and don't target anything, they will not then retarget onto the enemies that manage to survive the SEEKER Volley. It also seems like SEEKER Volley actually tries to spread the missiles evenly amongst all the fighters that you can see. So for example, if we have, let's say, 12 fighters on your screen right now, instead of doing what I think would be a better idea, which is to try and focus on killing as many of those fighters with your missiles, what SEEKER Volley will then do is they'll take all 50 missiles and spread them evenly among the 12 fighters, so that's 4 missiles apiece, and then you've got 2 left over that'll probably hit 2 of the fighters, and then they will get 5 missiles. Ultimately, that spreads the damage really thin, and that's why you will find that a SEEKER Volley against a group of enemies, a very large group of enemies, typically is not quite effective. So how could DE fix SEEKER Volley and actually make it compete with the Void Hole? Because I really think if SEEKER Volley is actually effective in the Veil, not to one-shot everything, of course, but to at least be able to kill 10 fighters with 1 volley, I think then it would create a very interesting dynamic where SEEKER Volley would be more effective at destroying a smaller group of enemies that happen to be spread further out, especially in depth, whereas Void Hole would be much more effective at destroying a large group of enemies who happen to be closer together. First off, I think the damage of SEEKER Volley needs to increase to be comparable with a Tycho Seeker. Specifically, I think 4 Seeker missiles should have the same comparable damage as 1 Tycho Seeker. So the way DE should probably do this is to add damage scaling as you upgrade your Seeker missiles. Right now, when you upgrade Seeker missiles, the only thing that is upgraded is the amount of missiles. Each missile individually continues to do 884 damage, despite the fact that you may have it as a fully maxed out Seeker Volley on a fully maxed out grid node. So I've done a bit of a quick calculation, and I think each rank of Seeker Volley should increase the damage of each missile by about 1,300. So the unranked version of Seeker Volley would give us missiles that only do 884 damage. That's fine. When you have an unranked Seeker Volley, that typically means that you're probably on Earth still, or you're on Saturn still, like you're still early game. So as you spend more and more Dirac to increase the power of your Seeker Volley, that should be an indicator of how further into the star chart that you are. And obviously this is going to improve the overall effectiveness of the Seeker Volley. So we're going to also keep in the targeting system that it uses, where if you do have more than 12 enemies on the screen, let's say you have 20 fighters, it is a massive crowd. A crowd that you would normally use Void Hole to suck all in and then use 1 Tycho Seeker and blow them all up. Instead, we only have Seeker Volley. Okay, that's fine. That's the dynamic that we're walking into, where Seeker Volley is not as effective against a giant clump of enemies, but is more effective against a smaller clump of enemies that are spread further away. Or even just a smaller clump of enemies point blank. Now, if you disagree with the targeting mechanic that currently exists with Seeker Volley, I offer an alternative solution. Let's give Seeker Volley the Kira Yamato treatment, where if you happen to have ever seen Gundam Seed or Gundam Seed Destiny, you may know that when Kira Yamato, and by extension Asaran Zara, use their full burst mode and they're getting ready to basically target every single Zaku and every single Wingdom and blow up all of their heads, arms, legs, and all that jazz, they have a targeting system that works pretty much like Ash's Blade Storm effect. Or if you happen to play God of War, which I am actually playing at the moment because it's really fun, it's really awesome, the sort of targeting system that you can get when you want to swing Kratos' axe at a group of enemies. However many missiles you use is however much flux energy you use, so that at that point you don't necessarily have to use 100 flux every single time. 1 missile can just simply cost 2 flux. So that is Seeker Volley in action. Hopefully DE will give it a nice buff. Maybe they will give it a buff in a similar way to something that I've already described. I guess we will find out soon enough. Let me know what you think about all of this in the comments below. If you have any questions about Seeker Volley, feel free to leave them in the comments. I mean, that's what they're there for, generally. Otherwise, if you like this video, hit that like button, subscribe for more WarFrame content, and until next time, I'll see you guys later. Thanks for watching. Bye!